Welcome to Web Handling. My name is Dave Roysum. I am super excited to wrap up our Decades mini-series. In this short clip, we will explore the wide range of economics that you might find in the tens of thousands of web plants around the world. Here, we will look at the costs of webs and web machines, the useful lifetime of machines, startup, waste, delay, and customer complaints. I think you will find this quite interesting and well worth your time to see these 6 short slides. I know your time is precious, so let's get started. Yes, I've been around a lot and I have seen a lot. However, I must begin with some caveats. The first is that in my work I seldom ask about pricing and am generally not made aware of it. More importantly, as a nod to antitrust laws, I am not suggesting what pricing currently is or what it should be. Rather, this is just a very approximate range of what you might find in the wider web world. Let us begin with material costs. At the cheap end, you might see ordinary copy paper sell for a couple of dollars per pound at your ordinary office supply store. The raw material that made it, pulp, is a noticeable portion of that cost. As an example of more expensive webs, I offer textiles that can go for $10 to even $100 per pound on eBay and Etsy. Of course, that is by no means the most expensive webs. There are probably medical patches where the medicine itself can be more expensive than gold per pound. Now, let's look at the cost of the machines that made those webs. Paper, the cheaper material, is made on a machine that can easily exceed the cost of more than $100 million. The support structure that is necessary, the pulp and paper complex, can cost upward of $1 billion. Yet, the more expensive material, textiles, are made on looms that cost perhaps tens of thousands of dollars, and support structure adding a noticeable amount onto that. Of course, we could have picked other examples, but you may find that there is a general pattern here. The general pattern is that the more expensive the web, the cheaper the machine that is made on. I observed this general relationship almost immediately as a newly forged consultant more than 3 decades ago, and it still generally holds true today. What also holds is my bafflement why this should be so. Another area where you might see a very wide range is how long it takes to design, build, and start up a machine. It begins roughly similar for most machines in that it may take many months from the time of placement of the purchase order to the time that the machine is delivered. Much of this has to do with long lead times for purchase parts. Special rollers, such as engraved rollers, might have lead times of around 1 year. Where the real variability lies, though, is how long it takes from machine delivery to running saleable product. This can be as little as 24 hours to install and start up a substantial rebuild in the paper industry. To do this, base plates, piping, and wiring are pre-installed to the extent possible, even while the old machine is still running. The rebuild is planned as carefully as the score of a piano concerto. More typically, in converting, machine installation commissioning might take 1 month, possibly a bit more. However, if startups drag on for a year, that is the time that lawyers might be called in. Much of this might be avoided if both buyers and suppliers did their homework, such as laid out in at least 2 of my books. For both parties, that would be to review the material in the Web Machine Buying Guide, especially when writing contracts and purchase orders. Designers especially, but also anyone involved in webs, should also have access to a copy of the must-have 750-page Web Handling Handbook. It should be no surprise that the useful lifetime of a machine varies quite a bit in the wide world of web handling. Economists teach us that capital must pay back in the 1 to 2 to 5 year time frame, depending on the cost of money, what other projects are competing for limited capital, and the risk of that particular project. Unfortunately, the effective life of electronics is very short, perhaps less than 5 years of support by the OEM for drives and PLCs. After that, you might literally be getting spare parts on eBay. Mechanical lives, aside from accidents and wear items, tend to be around 25 years, though paper machines can last much, much longer. Our last economic topics here will be waste, delay, and customer complaints. Waste tends to be in the 1 to 10% range. While this might seem high, recall that in the early days of computer chips, the reject rate was around 50%. Yet, the semiconductor manufacturers were still making money hand over fist, as they say. I even ran into more than a few converters with 50% waste, and they were still doing quite well. Delay, or uptime as I've shown here, varies enormously. R&D pilot lines have very, very, very low productivities. Some, if not most, rewinders spend more time stopped than running. Web makers do a bit better. Finally, customer complaints or returns can vary from perhaps 1/100th of 1% to a few percent. Bear in mind that complaints are more frequent than claims, and that the hidden costs of dissatisfaction are much, much higher still. I hope you've enjoyed this episode on economics in this Decades mini-series. Stay tuned for next week's show, where we will return to the ever-popular Great Questions mini-series. If you have a topic you would like to hear about, let me know in the comment section below. If you found anything interesting or useful here, please like and share and subscribe. See you next time.